questions, but I think overall I wanted to remind folks of the tragedy and our need to reach out and support others. Also, to encourage folks that we have a very strong coordinated effort and response here in Tennessee, that I'm very proud of the folks that have been up all night long working to make sure that we accomplish what we need to get accomplished, and that we have much to know and much to learn in the hours ahead. And we'll be providing information and input and feedback to Tennesseans as we get that information. Be mindful of the things that the mayor said, not traveling into downtown if you don't need to, and that would hold true in Putnam County and other areas of damage. Don't go where the damage is if you don't need to be there. We have emergency personnel that are assisting, but then do stay aware of how it is that you can volunteer when the time is right to surround our citizens and to be there for them when they need it. So I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you, Mayor, and many in this room who are coordinating the effort. We will stay on it all day long and continue to report back. Why don't we have our personnel from emergency response teams come up here, and then we'll do Q&A.
Yeah, if the chiefs would come up also, and Tima. Thank you.
So we'll take questions and then direct responses to the appropriate person.
Does anyone have a question?
Right here, Chris. Yeah. Hi, Brett Kelman, the Tennessean. Mayor Cooper, Governor Lee, when you guys woke up this morning and all of those many, many cranes in Nashville were still standing upright, what was that like? Did you worry about the potential devastation if we'd seen some type of collapse in the storm?
Well, you always worry. We have got a lot of great codes inspectors here, so they did their job, and you can look at how much was preserved and where the damage happened. It is a massive act of nature, and the missing auto zone building on Rosa Parks. I mean, just go. I hope your paper takes a picture of it and just impresses on people that there was no stopping that. That just came out of the sky. But again, the fact that cranes didn't fall over, again, let's just credit. They get a lot of criticism, but let's just credit our codes folks and our fire inspectors for making sure that went as safely as it did.
What was your takeaway talking to people in the shelters this morning? What were they saying?
Well, it's very inspiring. I mean, many of them, in one case, had their 3-year-old child that they grabbed a pack and play and were able just to get out in time. They were calm, they were resilient, they were looking after each other. There was not a lot of conversation, I will say, but there was grace, because I think they realized how lucky we all are with the fragility of life. But that's my overwhelming feeling, was just a group of people experiencing grace together. Governor,
what kind of assistance are you asking from the White House, and what have you kind of seen in the past? What do you think we'll get federally and from the government?
So we did speak with the White House this morning, and the way this works is when we can provide information that shows that we have a disaster that qualifies for federal aid, then we begin to submit for that. So they actually have reached out and said, is there anything you need us to do right now, immediately? And until we have a full assessment, we don't believe that's the case. But what they will be able to help us with is assistance down the road. So, and we will apply for that and coordinate those efforts with them. But let me just say, I was encouraged with the immediate response and the immediate coordination between the federal government and our state in a total willingness to help us out. And we'll be walking down that path together with them in the days ahead.
When you think about those 9 people who lost their lives in this horrible storm, first of all, can you shed any light as to how those people passed, or the circumstances surrounding it, and what is your message to their families?
Yeah. Well, personally, Maria and I are praying for every single one of those families, and not just the families, but the communities around them. You know that loss, tragic, sudden loss like that can be a powerful, it can do powerful damage in a community, but it can also bring a lot of hope. So we're praying, we're hopeful that people will surround those families, and there's a really good possibility that there may be more because of the number of folks that we know that are missing and haven't been reported. And it's early, and it's early yet. But a couple things: one, we do need to reach out to them, and two, we will respond to them in ways that really government can, but it's going to take a community to respond to these families. And I'm certain their communities, their churches, their folks will gather around them, and that's what we know. It happens in this state. We're a remarkable people who respond to tragedy and crisis in remarkable ways, and I'm sure that will be the case for those families and any others that might be affected.
Can someone maybe from the fire department talk about search and rescue efforts last night, or just going door to door? I know there were a lot of apartment complexes that were impacted with hundreds of people in them, and then also maybe someone from the DAS from Piedmont about the situation right now, and also what was the situation early this morning.
Well, I think both the mayor and the governor has hit on a couple of points, and that's our urban search and rescue teams. From the time this event started to actually currently right now, they're actually making door-to-door community checks along with PD. We have our personnel right now going up to get an aerial view of the devastation. We will actually map it out from the air and then bring it down back to the EOC, and we will actually then from there deploy more people out to the most devastating areas that we see. But it is a collective effort. We know we've got 48 as far as building collapse, and then we have either full collapse or partial collapse. From the fire department standpoint, we had 30 personnel that was injured. We've made over 400 calls from the time the event started to now. We've transported over 156 personnel. It's already been stated, unfortunately, we have 2 fatalities and 1 severely injured. But again, this will be an ongoing effort as we gather our resources and sort of take a good view of all the damage, because, again, once it started, we had people there actually trying to get people out of structures and get them in a orderly fashion into a safer zone. And now we're just trying to map it out so that we can actually put more boots on the grounds to make sure that we're taking care of people that we may not even know that's injured or hurt. So again, everybody's working very hard. Our activation started this morning around about 1:45, where we actually pulled in all the infrastructure that we needed, all the teams from police to fire, public works and water and NES and so many others, the Red Cross and many others, so we can all come together collectively and make decisions as one body to be able to be more in an orderly fashion. So again, I just commend everyone, and like the mayor said and the governor, we're resilient. People usually come together when something like this happens, so we're just looking for everybody to come together as one and just to help out your fellow man. So thank you.
To clarify, you said 30 personnel injured. Does that mean people who work for you or people here in Nashville?
These are the 30 personnel that we have that are actually injured. These are on the scene injuries that took place. So these from anywhere from people that was aiding and helping. But remember, the total transport that we made from the calls has been about 156 personnel. We had 400 calls. I mean, from the time again it started to now. We're just now leveling out where we're back to a more normal status as far as our call volume that's coming in. But just a lot of, when the event happened, you can imagine, we're just overwhelmed with all the calls. And again, I just commend the departments with their response and just being on point.
The governor said that some people were missing. Can you expand upon how many people we're talking about?
Yeah, we don't know that yet. We just, the reports are just coming in, and Patrick Sheehan may have an update on that, but no, there are these tornadoes drop down in multiple places across the state. So, and it's still early yet, but there's debris damage and building damages in places severely, for example, in Putnam County, and knowing who is missing and who is not is hard to find out at this point, but that information will come as the day progresses.
Are there people missing in all 4 counties currently?
I can't answer that. I just know that the report is that there are missing persons across the state, but I didn't get information on which counties have how many folks.
Do you have any sense of the dollar amount of damages that would happen?
Not at all. It's significant. You can see that even in Germantown, it's significant. But this stretches all the way, from the middle of the state, actually from one end of the state to the other. When you consider Benton County to Putnam County and beyond, so there'll be extensive damage, but we don't know how much that'll be yet.
Couple more questions?
Yeah, so this could potentially affect polls. Any talk of plans to try to get people out there, since you have said don't drive?
So
Downtown.
yeah, downtown. We've actually deployed generators to polling stations that are reporting that they don't have power. So, of course, we want people to exercise caution in areas like downtown Nashville where there's damage in the streets and that sort of thing. But we also want folks to exercise their rights and get out there and vote. It's a very important day for that. So we're going to make it as possible, make it possible for as many folks as we can to vote. And wherever we find a polling station that there's a problem, we're reaching out to correct that.
And actually, Chief Swan has a list, I think it's worth going over, of the alternative polling places, if he would bring us up to date on how that's facilitated.
Yeah, and Mayor, what we decided to do, the Election Commission is actually putting out alternate places to go vote, and they're doing via the news media, of course, and the social media outlets. So if you just pay close attention to that, also from the EOC perspective, we'll be putting that list out, because it's a pretty big list, so I will not take the time to mention each one of them, but just know they moved the time to 8 o'clock, and there will be voting today, and again, they're doing a great job of getting alternates voting locations, so just pay close attention to that, and we'll constantly put that out. So we want everybody to actually be able to vote.
And to put it in perspective, Chief, I think it's 15 polling locations out of 169 precincts. So the likelihood of voting going on in your precinct as normal is very great.
Right.
Is very great. Only less than 10% are affected.
What were those two numbers again, one more time, Mayor?
There are 15 polling places that are having an alternative site out of basically 169 precincts. So the likelihood of you being able to vote regularly at your home precinct is very great. But everybody should check and make sure if they are on one of that list of 15. And the Election Commission is facilitating regular voting, and I'm sure if you get there up until 6:59 tonight, they will keep it open for you.
Right.
Thank you, everyone. We'll send out those precinct locations to you after we wrap up here.
Should we expect any more updates today like this?
Not another press conference, but we will send updates as appropriate.
And again, I do want to thank the state very much and the governor for being here. And we're going to need the state's help and the federal government's help for the assistance to rebuild, because that's what's going to happen starting in about 2 days once NES gets the power back on, then on to getting our city rebuilt. Thank you.
People are going to be without power for 2 days?
No, but some areas clearly will be.
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree? And actually, DaCosta, if you didn't mind just giving us an update, because I know you've got thousands of viewers for whom that's very much upper mind.
So thank you, Mayor. First, let me say that our hearts are broken for the city that we service and love, and that we stand by our customers, our neighbors, and our friends, and we will get through this tragedy. In terms of statistics, our initial assessment is there are 50,000 customers out. We've got 4 major substations out. Now, we were able to restore power to the central substation, which feeds a big part of downtown. We've got about 80 poles out. And the 161 kilovolt line that's a TVA line that feeds the Hermitage substation is out, and that's one of our major focuses. If we can get that line back up, then that will restore power to most of the people in Hermitage. But it's going to be a massive effort, a massive coordinated effort. We will try to get power on as soon as we can to the people that can accept power. There are going to be some people that won't be able to accept power for a while, but we'll get the power on to the people that can accept it.
Patrick, would you, do you have anything to add from a team perspective, and then
Yes, sir.
that we've not said?
So the election support, so it's not just Davidson County, so the Secretary of State's office and the governor and our teams have had conversations today about coordinating to make sure that power is available to those polling locations that can take it. And I know that Secretary Hargit's team is working with the Attorney General to make sure that they can be as flexible as possible with accommodating votes. And I'm not sure how that discussion has gone. I'm sure the Secretary of State's office is preparing remarks about that. But we're all working to make sure that Tennesseans can vote today. It's an incredibly important day for our democracy, and it wasn't the immediate need that we were focused on, but we knew that today it was very important. So, and we do have searches and rescues going on in a number of counties, and that's why we don't have numbers yet, but that will continue to develop, and the governor, I think, is right that we will see an increase in the number of fatalities today. So please keep those families in your thoughts and in your prayers, and be mindful about ways that you can help. So going into those areas today and tomorrow, probably not the best way, but there'll be people that need donations, and they're reputable organizations that'll be able to help them. So please find ways to contribute like that. Thank you, sir.
I'll just add to Mayor's closing comments. It is a very tragic and difficult day in Tennessee, but this is where people come together to see redemption in tragedy, and we see that with our emergency personnel all across the state doing exactly what we need to do to respond. I'm very proud of the responses from Metro all the way to these remote counties statewide, and even the response from the federal government. As tragic as this is, and our hearts are broken, we are certain that we'll surround these folks, and we'll do what's necessary, and we will take what is a difficult situation, as Tennesseans do, and make the most of what we can. We have great hope for, as this day unfolds, where it's headed and what the days ahead will be for us through this very difficult spot that our state finds itself in, but very hopeful place as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good luck. Good God, we're planning everything. All right, on to it.
Yeah, we'll
More
keep-
than 150
What's that? Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Once we get that map back,
Good to
we'll bring you up to
stay
speed with
with
it.
it.
And if you want to get up or something, maybe a good.
You don't, well, in time, but just stay focused
Okay,
on.
okay, all right.
We might. There's areas that are damaged. We don't even know the
Some pockets, clearly.
Governor, fine, sir. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, super great.
Hey, just a point of clarity really quickly. Just to be clear, we have made transports, but they've not been NFD personnel. Those are patients, not NFD personnel. We don't have any personnel that have been injured.
They've got, PIO's got.
I'll put a film to last.
Yeah, yeah. Let him know he got, they're gonna figure out,